bit easier on the screen. Hi, Abahita. Good morning. Welcome. All right. So our first class for the year. I want to make some hot chocolate. So. And I want to make hot chocolate because I want to make it the way it is, or a more traditional way of making it. People have ideas on how you make, things like chocolate and the ingredients that are in there, and that it must be very complex and hard to make, and all of that is incorrect. So I'm going to use a Ren. Good morning, Happy New Year. Good to see you. So we're gonna make a traditional hot chocolate, and that means we're gonna use water as the base. We're not gonna use milk. This is one of the things that kind of dominant culture, North American culture, has changed the traditional recipe to be milk-based, and so we tend to think that that's how you make hot chocolate, but that's not how you make hot chocolate. You make it with water, is certainly an option. The reason that I like this recipe, this is yet another variation of just eat the stuff and don't worry too much about extraction, right? Here, once again, we are using cacao in suspension. This is not technically an extract. We are not using the water to extract the cacao, so we don't have to worry about which constituents are being extracted, which are not, all of that. No, it's holding the cacao. It is in suspension. So I have cacao powder. We do want to be mindful about where we source, of course, everything, and cacao is certainly one of those things. So we get our cacao powder from the same place where we get our cocoa butter and our shea butter, and that's from Baraka. Baraka is a company owned by a woman from Ghana who lives in Canada now, and she has set up a collective with women in the village that she comes from, so that she's able to give them business and support. They're able to have a thriving business because of her. So cacao powder that is just a pure, minimally processed cacao. Abahita says cacao bean prices have literally doubled here in Mexico in the past few months. Apparently something happened in Africa to change the world cocoa prices. I had heard about that, Abahita. I guess it will change the cocoa price in Western countries soon enough. You know it will. I'm surprised that it hasn't already. I wonder how it'll affect. I mean, good thing I got like a whole big batch of the Baraka cocoa powder from there. But yeah, I had heard there was also something going on with the crop. If anyone else knows, in the comments, if you can, right now it's just speculation, but I'd heard that there was something with the crop too. So we have cocoa powder. Now, when we make cocoa into cocoa powder, hi, welcome. Grab a seat. When we make cocoa into cocoa, we're making hot chocolate this morning.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So when we make cocoa into cocoa powder, the primary thing that happens is the removal of cocoa butter. So consider, have you all had cacao nibs? Have you seen cacao nibs or cocoa beans, the whole beans? I should have brought some cacao nibs over here. Because cacao nibs really represent the whole, the cacao bean. It's been broken open and you have the whole pieces of the seed. And so you're able to eat those, and you can really get a sense of the fattiness of it, of the butteriness. It is a seed, and seeds always have a high amount of oils. And so whenever you have oils in a high concentration in there, and generally whenever you have seeds that you're extracting, one of the things that we want to keep in mind is that seeds don't extract in water, because they're always fatty. That's where we get fats and oils from, are generally from seeds and some fruits. And so if we are to, but he just says, it used to cost $8 a kilo. Now it's nearly 24. Wow. That's bonkers. Yeah, that's amazing. we're talking about the change in the prices of chocolate recently. Abejita's down in Mexico, and she says that it's just really, really increased it. Yeah. So we extract the cocoa butter from the cacao. So now we have two products, right? We have the cocoa powder that is the minimally processed cocoa that has had the cocoa butter extracted, and then we have the cocoa butter that we use separately. And once you've pulled the cocoa butter out, now you have a powder that can be dissolved into water. You can't, if you take cocoa nibs, the cacao nibs, and put them into like a tea blend, thinking, oh, I'll put some cacao nibs in to my tea blend so it'll taste like cocoa. It won't. There's too much fat in there and it won't move into the water. What you can use if you want something to add into your tea blend to have a little bit of cocoa flavor is the shells, the cocoa shells. Are a really nice way. They're water soluble. They have cocoa flavor. They have a little bit of caffeine, and they're beautiful in tea blends. And you could put a cocoa powder in there, but of course it's going to drop down to the bottom of your tea blend, so it's not going to work. After you extract the butter, then we have the powder. So the powder then we can take and we're going to dissolve it into water. So the ratio generally that I like is for a quart of water. A quart is 4 cups. I'm going to use a half a cup of cocoa powder. And I'm going to mix that in to the hot water. Now we don't want to boil it. We want to bring it up to heat, but we don't want to boil it. So I've got...
Could I ask a question?
Yes.
You don't
absolutely.
want to boil the water when you're making tea?
Oh, this is for making the hot chocolate.
Oh, the hot chocolate.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So we're reconstituting the cocoa powder we're putting in there. And so I have the water hot. You can see the steam coming off of there. But yeah, I don't want to bring it to a boil.
Okay.
So I've got a half cup of cocoa powder that I put in there. And now this, because we pulled that, because we pulled the cocoa butter out of there, can dissolve. And we're going to add to that about 2 teaspoons of cinnamon powder, because they're just so lovely. Is that good with y'all? Are y'all okay with cinnamon in your... No one says, ooh, I hate cinnamon. There are people who don't like cinnamon. I don't understand those people, but I know they exist and I respect them. So, I'm going to take a whisk and whisk this in. So I have 4 cups of water and a half a cup of cocoa powder. And you can see that it just dissolves into the water. You can see in the YouTube. You're gonna get the smell here. Now, we're gonna let that simmer for a little bit. Now we want to put some fat back in there, right? So we pulled the cocoa butter out in the processing and we want to throw some back in there. My preference is coconut oil. So if you are all okay with coconut, actually my preference is butter. Butter or ghee is my first choice. But when I'm making a formula for a large group, and it's not just me, and I don't know how everyone feels about stuff like that, we will just go to coconut. And we're not doing this again for flavor. We're doing this, we're doing it for mouthfeel. We're doing it for the richness of the blend. Yeah, I know, isn't it? Very, very fragrant. Yeah.
So 2 tablespoons?
Yeah. We've got about 2 tablespoons of coconut oil in there.
For a different
That's
feel.
for the mouthfeel. It makes it more rich, more luxurious. It also slows the rate of absorption of the caffeine in here. So this is one of the concerns of chocolate, as with anything containing caffeine, is it contains caffeine, and those people who are sensitive to it, including me, when I have too much caffeine, my nerves don't like it and my digestive system doesn't like it. So when we add fat in there, that slows the rate of gastric emptying of caffeine, and so it blunts the effect a little bit, and it also extends the length of time. Teresa, hi Teresa. We are making hot chocolate. Hi Trish, yes, exactly. All right, so we have a couple of tablespoons of fat in there, and then I'm also going to add to that some vanilla. And for our vanilla, we can add just some vanilla extract, but this is vanilla paste, and I have a video of how to make vanilla paste. This is so good. It's pure vanilla beans that have been ground, simmered, and then extracted and ground, and so instead of being this again, once again, the whole beans have been ground and are in suspension. It's not an extract, which is what true vanilla extract is, right? So that is basically a tincture. We're looking at vanilla extract. That's a tincture. This, again, is the whole plant just ground and held in suspension in a glycerin medium. So there's a little bit of sweetness in there, but I love this stuff so much.
You making the hot chocolate? I've never even thought of putting all of this stuff.
I
into it.
know.
You're really cooking here.
I know. That's why we're doing it. And so it doesn't have to be this complex.
But I'm excited to try it.
I think you'll really, really love it. No, we're not quite done yet either. There's another step. So another couple of steps. So we have the vanilla in there. We're building this complex flavor. Now, another thing that we need is a sweetener, right? So we have a couple of different options for sweeteners. I generally use honey. About a tablespoon per quart of honey, because I don't like it sweet. Really, I just want that honey in there just to offset the bitterness a little bit, and it just makes it just kind of rounded. There's a little bit of sweetness in there in a tablespoon. You, of course, can adjust it up or down because everyone's taste when it comes to sweet is tremendously variable. So honey is really nice in there. You could also use agave. You can also use one of the things that I do really love and I think we should use today is the coconut sugar. Coconut sugar is particularly tasty in chocolate because it has a molasses-like depth of flavor to it that just, it's very, very pleasant. It has a little bit of, not bitterness, but yeah, just that molasses-y thing that just goes really, really nice with the depth and complexity of chocolate. Is everyone okay with coconut? We're like in coconut land today. We're doing the coconut oil and the coconut sugar. So coconut sugar is significantly less sweet than honey or other sugars. So I'm going to do a couple of tablespoons of this. It's also going to give it a little bit of body. There is some fiber in the coconut sugar as well that we wouldn't generally see in the other ones. So we will taste that and we will adjust for flavor as soon as it dissolves in there. Now we don't have a traditional, oh yeah, see for me that is beautiful. I'm gonna assume it's beautiful for y'all too. And then I will show you ways to modify it after I pour it for you if you want to. Yeah, just barely sweet there, but I think that is really perfect because really what we're looking at in this formula is we are centering the chocolate. We have this beautiful chocolate, this lovely quality chocolate, and we really want to enhance that, the focus of that. So I think we're fine with that. Now this is the final process with this. In traditional Mexican chocolate, there is a frothing whisk, a wooden carved frothing whisk that is really, really lovely for mixing the final hot chocolate. I don't have one of those with me, so I'm just going to use my blender. But the blending of it really brings it together so nicely. I hate this pan. Pouring anything out of this pan, it's just the worst thing. So I'll just scoop. Scooping is much better. So we'll get a little bit of that out of there. How are y'all with not terribly sweet things? Would you rather me increase that sweet? I'm feeling like maybe my sweetness level is lower than your sweetness level. Should I put a little bit more sweet in there just to make it more friendly, or are y'all okay with like not very sweet at all? Okay, I'm just gonna have you be brave then. So generally we do want to be careful when we are heating hot things, or when we're blending hot things, right? Blending hot liquids, the hot liquids expand quite a lot in blending. This is one of the only things I don't love about the NutriBullets, thank you, about NutriBullets, is that you can't have the lid kind of off lightly, right? Like you can a blender. With a blender, you can have the lid off, or you can just kind of put it on so it doesn't splatter everywhere. But this, you're really having to seal it, and we're sealing it, and there's going to be an increase in the pressure in here. So you just want to be careful if you're using something like a NutriBullet where it's closed and you're heating something hot, you want to make sure that there's a lot of volume here. Otherwise, the increased pressure is going to blow out. You're just going to leak everywhere. Might leak anywhere. Anyway, let's try. Yeah, see? Yeah, I tried to release it, but... I think that was, no. Yeah, it's just gonna, wow. I'll show you what just happened. This is why you don't do it. Look at this. It cracked the side. The pressure of the liquid expanding.
That's plastic, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, because I don't think hot
Yeah.
is supposed to put it in plastic.
Yeah. Well, this is meant to be non-reactive, but the pressure, it's just the pressure of the increased liquid. Yeah. So, but we got it blended. We got our job.
So is your NutriBullet broken now?
Just this container. Just this container. I have 8 containers. I have a lot of containers for this because it's one of the things that I use for my students all the time. There you go. There you go. So it would have more foam if I was able to froth it a little bit more than that. But that's okay. You get the idea. So if we do then a tasting and a smelling as we would any other plant, right? When we're introducing ourselves to a plant, we're going to smell it first. You have a video on making vanilla paste. I do, Trish. I have to go and find it as I have beans that are begging to be made into something. It's the best way. If you have a whole bunch of beans and you need to make it, do a search, Green Wisdom vanilla paste, and it'll come up. It's a great recipe. You can make just a whole bunch of this, and then it just, it's such good stuff. All right, so can you describe what it smells like without using the word chocolate?
Delicious.
Delicious.
I do smell the coconut. I smell the coconut.
Yeah, the coconut does come up.
It's like rich. I don't know. It smells rich.
Yeah, rich. Yeah, fatty. Hi, you have great timing. I'm like, I'm just coming in for the hot chocolate.
Oh, yeah. It smells good.
Yeah. This is hot chocolate. What did we put in there? I have made a mess of myself today. Cacao, cinnamon, water, coconut oil, vanilla, and the coconut sugar. Yeah. So the consistency is much lighter because it has the water in the base instead of a milk. We do have the fattiness in there, so it's rich, but it's a lighter texture. Is it on YouTube or Facebook? I'm pretty sure it's a YouTube video. I don't think it was so long ago that it was a Facebook video. It was after I had bought a pound of vanilla beans from a vanilla cooperative. And so I had a pound of vanilla beans to work with. And I think that wasn't so long ago that it would have been Facebook. So I'm pretty sure it was on YouTube. So check that. Let me know if you can't find it. Text me and then I'll hunt it down for you. Abahita says, I think it's on YouTube too. Okay, yeah, I'm pretty sure. So this, what do you think about this as a hot chocolate?
It's nice. It's like deep.
It's, very rich.
Hot chocolate often, but this is lighter.
Yeah.
Especially since it's not milk-based.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a much more traditional recipe. Now, the fun thing about using that as a base recipe, so that's the base recipe, but as we always know, if you've got a base recipe like that, you can always modify it. You can add all sorts of other plants to this, right? So where are all of the places that we could add the plants? Well, the first thing would be the water. We started with 4 cups of water, 1 quart. And so instead of using water as the base, we could use a tea. So we could start with, if we wanted to kind of lean into that bitter, kind of dense, complex flavor, we could use a dandelion root, or even like a roasted dandelion root tea. Has more of a coffee-like flavor, and a lot of that roastiness would be really, really nice to give a lot of depth of flavor. Or burdock. You can make ashwagandha, astragalus. You can make an astragalus decoction that would not be that wouldn't add much flavor, because astragalus has an extremely mild flavor, and so really doesn't add its flavor to much of anything. But a nice strong astragalus decoction is the base of this, transforms this from, oh, we have hot chocolate, to, no, we have astragalus hot chocolate. Astragalus is one of the most profound, long-term, deep immune, tonifying and strengthening Chinese herbs that we have. And so that would transform it. That's how I got my beans as well, through a co-op. Yeah, it's the best way to buy. I will never buy vanilla beans any other way, because they're so much more fresh, right? Because you're getting it direct from the farmer, and the price just can't be beat. Yeah. For those wondering, Indra, I-N-D-R-A, is the name of the vanilla bean co-op that I've bought through. They're great. Just look up Indra Vanilla Bean Co-op, and they connect with farmers in Indonesia, Madagascar, wherever, and the farmers will say, hey, we've got a crop coming up of vanilla beans, and they do a pre-order, a pre-buy-in, so you can go in and say, ooh, give me 2 pounds of those vanilla beans, and then as soon as the farmer harvests the crop and dries it and sends it out, you get your fresh vanilla beans right from the farmer. So it's awesome. This isn't a vanilla class; it's a chocolate class, but those are similar. Let's see, what was I saying? Okay, so the water is one of the ways that we can modify it. We can also modify it by other powders that we're adding in. So we added in just the basic cacao, added in some cinnamon, but I've got some other powders up there that we could also throw in very, very easily to a hot chocolate formula, and then modify that formula to be more therapeutic. So I have, yeah.
Have you ever tried it? Because you said today you use standard water, but have you ever tried it with coconut water? Have you ever tried?
Oh, coconut water would be one of the great ways that you could do it. Absolutely, that would be beautiful. It would enhance the flavor.
Probably more coconutty, I would say.
Absolutely, yeah, that would be beautiful. And of course, you could do coconut milk or coconut cream, but then we're getting kind of more into the milky way, and we kind of wanted to. Milky Way. We wanted to stay with that water base, but yeah, exactly. That's the kind of mindset that you want to bring to a recipe like this, because then you can just modify it accordingly. What happens if you do coconut water? I don't know, but you know the flavor of coconut water, and now you know the flavor of this recipe. And once you know the two, you can marry the two in your mind and go, yeah, I can absolutely see where that would work. Where maybe if you had like celery juice, you would go, yeah, not so much on the celery juice. That wouldn't be a good idea, right? So yeah, that would be really horrible, actually. That would be really just vile. Let's see. So the first powder that I have to add in there is shatavari. So shatavari is an herb from Ayurvedic tradition, and it is a plant that brings moisture to the body. It is used often by people who have gone through menopause, who have a lot of the dryness in the body that comes from a lowering of estrogen levels. Not just dryness in the skin, vaginal mucosa, dryness in the eyes, the hair. We just get a pattern of dryness in the body, and shatavari is really, really nice for enhancing that moisture. Very neutral. It is asparagus root powder, and it has, again, this neutral kind of starchy flavor that would marry very, very nicely with cinnamon. Really, all of these would go well with that. Marshmallow root powder. So marshmallow root and shatavari, if you are a person who had a lot of dryness, you could throw in both of those into your blend and have it be a really, really moistening, nourishing formula. And the marshmallow powder would also change the consistency. And here's where you'd want to be careful about it. How would marshmallow root powder change the consistency of your hot chocolate?
Would it make it slimy?
It would make it slimy if it would make it thick. Yeah. If you put too much, it would make it slimy, and that would be disgusting. So if you want to add marshmallow root powder, you'd want to use just a light touch. But a light touch of it, just a small amount in there, would just make it thicker, more substantial, kind of more body with it. And then providing some soothing effects along the gastrointestinal tract as well.
How does the shatavari work? Is it just mucosal membranes? How does it add the moisture?
Well, it's very starchy in and of itself, and whenever you have a starchy plant, starches inherently carry water. It is the nature of polysaccharides to hold moisture. And then you have organ affinities, and so you have mucilaginous moisture-containing plants, and then those plants generally have an affinity to, some of them really love the lungs because of secondary and tertiary chemistry of the plant kind of tends to make it go to a certain area of the body. So some of them are going to be more respiratory mucilage. Some of them are urinary mucilage, like couchgrass and corn silk. Some of them are more gut focused, like slippery elm and marshmallow. And some of them have more of an effect, as shatavari has with the vaginal mucosa. We see a really significant change in vaginal mucus and the thickening of the vaginal wall when people use shatavari. It is not hormonal. So we don't know, this is part of the magic of herbs, but there's an affinity to the vaginal mucosa specifically with shatavari that we don't generally tend to see in most other plants.
And what about for males? Does it work?
It would work for those patterns of dryness, right? If they're also having just dry skin, dry hair, dry nails, dry mucous membranes, right? It's certainly worth using. There are so many moistening plants, right? This is just, I always want to kind of look at what are the secondary other benefits of them. I brought some cayenne because cayenne is also traditionally added to hot chocolate, so you could add a little bit of cayenne in there as well. Yeah, just a little bit. It's very easy to go overboard with that, and you don't want to. Ashwagandha powder. So ashwagandha powder also would be very, very good to put in there. Ashwagandha has a kind of a rooty, dense flavor. It has a little bit of a stronger flavor, so you do want to have it be, not too strong. But ashwagandha would be a very nice addition to that formula as an adaptogen. We want to remember that the immediate effects of ashwagandha, generally when people take it, it has a calming effect, a relaxing effect. So that means that maybe if you're making an ashwagandha chocolate, you might want to have that later on in the day before bed at night, and not early in the morning. The secondary effects of ashwagandha, we see an increase in vigor, an increase in vitality, an increase in metabolic functioning, an increase in energy, but that's not the immediate effect from ashwagandha. Let's see, two others that you can add in there. Maca. So maca is another hormonal tonic, fertility tonic. It's a species of turnip. So we have a root vegetable, right? So we have that kind of rooty, earthy flavor of maca. Again, goes very nicely with chocolate. So that would be a great way of making it more of a tonic. And then medicinal mushrooms. So I have some reishi powder here, Ganoderma, but really any of the medicinal mushroom powders, mushrooms and chocolate are classic together. They go so well together. So a mushroom powder would beautifully go into this formula as well. So adding powders in there is another way you can modify the formula. So you can modify the formula by changing the water. You can modify the formula by changing or adding in other powders. And then finally, you can modify the formula by adding in tinctures or glycerides. And you can use glycerides as a sweetener. So say you want to have it be increased sweetener, maybe you don't want to use a true sugar because you have someone who has a sugar imbalance, or you just choose not to use the sugar. A glyceride is an herbal extract in glycerin, and so glycerin has a significant sweetness to it. So it's very, very, very sweet, and you have the beneficial effects of the plant. So this is some rose glyceride. Adding in some rose glyceride in there would give you that beautiful rose complex flavor along with chocolate, which is gorgeous. And then I also have some elderberry glyceride in here. Elder and chocolate is a very nice combination. Elder and chocolate doesn't sound very good, but is a very good combination. And then another one that I thought would be really lovely, orange peel in a tincture form. So orange peel is very, very, very aromatic and would just give a beautiful bright light quality to that. Therapeutically, why would you put orange peel in there? Because it's delightful, and because delightful things are nourishing to us. And so we can throw some orange peel in there. Orange peel medicinally, we just use that tincture because it's a good carminative. It's really, really helpful for improving digestion, increasing digestive secretions as a mild bitter, and helping to release gas and bloating and cramping and all of that. But in your hot chocolate blend here, no, it would just be because it's delightful to combine chocolate and orange. So what about using moringa? So absolutely, you could throw moringa in there. You always want to think about the flavor profile that anything that you're adding into your formula has. And so moringa, for me, has a green quality to it that I personally would not find to be that pleasant combined with chocolate. But Trish, if you think that moringa would be nice with your hot chocolate, that's the fun thing about playing around with these recipes is you can experiment with them, make a little bit and see. I don't know. I've never had moringa and chocolate, but I've had moringa and I've had chocolate, and so I can combine them in my brain and go, yeah, maybe not. You know what would be really nice? Oat straw would be great. Horsetail would be great. Nettles, again, we've got that kind of green, almost seaweedy flavor with the nettles that I think it also, maybe with moringa, maybe not. Red clover would be nice. You know, thinking of nourishing things like the moringa. Red clover, what else would be a good one? Those are nourishing without being so green tasting. Yeah. And then the burdock we already talked about. Dandelion root. Dandelion leaf would be too green. Yeah. So I like ginger, cardamom, and turmeric. Oh, turmeric also would be beautiful with cocoa drink. Yeah, what a beautiful combination, Abahita. I feel it helps make it easier to digest, softer on the digestion. 100%, absolutely. And because we have the fat in there, if we were to add turmeric powder in there, one of the things that turmeric really needs for absorption is a fat source. And we have a fat source in here. This actually would be a really good recipe for the addition of turmeric into a formula, because so many of the golden milk type formulas do not have appropriate amount of fat in there to make the turmeric available, and a pinch of slippery elm powder. Yeah, and so tell me, do you find that the slippery elm powder, does it give just kind of some body? You can go like too much on the slippery elm powder, right, and have it be, here's some slippery elm powder that I made for my students the other day. I have some left over. It was so disgusting. I was showing them what slime looked like, and yeah, there's their slippery elm disgusting slime. Some of them looked at it and went, nope, I am not eating that. I'm absolutely not. It was very funny. So yeah, a little bit of slippery elm in there, marshmallow root, whatever your mucilaginous plant is. Yeah, absolutely. You had a question.
If you added the turmeric, would you want to add black pepper with it?
Yeah, you certainly could add black pepper to that also. Make more of a, Yeah, just like a golden milk. Beautiful. That would be lovely. You could even, so once you got your ratios down with this, you could also take all of those powders and combine them together. So maybe you end up with a recipe that looks like ginger and cardamom and slippery elm and turmeric and black pepper and cacao, right? Take all of your ratios for that and make that into your golden milk chocolate blend, right? You could even put the coconut sugar in there if you wanted it sweetened. And then all you'd have to do is bring some water to a boil, throw a little bit of fat in there, add in that powdered mix, and you have basically your instant hot chocolate, but you have made the formula so you have control over that recipe. And that would be a really nice recipe. Yeah, absolutely. Abahibda says a little bit thicker, but just a pinch so the woodiness doesn't overpower the taste. Yeah, slippery elm woodiness, that flavor can be unpleasant if you get too much of it. Even though it's such a nice flavor, it can be overpowering. Okay, so there's your recipe for the week, hot chocolate with a lot of variations. This type of hot chocolate is really, really beneficial for you. This is a superfood. This is hot chocolate that if you were eating this every day, you'd be getting profound therapeutic benefits from it. And you can't really say that about, Nestle's little packets of hot chocolate. You can't drink those every day and say, oh, superfood. I'm giving myself some good benefits here. But this one, absolutely, and even more so if you were to modify it this way. So consider, especially if you're maybe someone who's trying to get off of coffee and you want something else, this process of making this is another sort of ritual that you can engage in. And quite often with coffee, people who are going off of coffee, you need something to replace that coffee ritual. Right? It's not just drinking something hot that has caffeine. It's much more than that. It's the body, it's the richness, it's the thickness. This has the richness and the thickness that it can step in for coffee, where for me, a lot of teas can't. And it has a little bit of the caffeine, and it has the ritual around it. So.
And it's bitter.
And it's bitter. Yeah. And you can mess with it the way that you can mess with your coffee. You can't always put all the stuff into your teas if you're into, doing that. I put all of the stuff into my coffee. Coffee is just a vehicle for all of this stuff. And chocolate can be a vehicle for all of this stuff. So for many, many reasons, this is a nice combination to use in place of that. Yes. Is it cocoa or cacao? Yeah. So cacao is the species name, Theobroma cacao. So oftentimes when we talk about it as cacao, well, there used to be a distinction of when we talked about it as cacao, we were talking about the whole bean, and we talked about it as cocoa. It was the bean had been processed, the cocoa butter removed, and now we were working with cocoa, which was the cocoa butter removed powder, and then however that was processed forward from that, right? So there used to be more of a distinction between them, but that in recent years has become really blurred, and nowadays people just kind of use them back and forth. Not as specific. Though I feel cocoa bean is very tough to digest, and as someone with gut sensitivities, I have to be really careful. It can be a bit irritating in the gut. Same thing. I can't have too much of it. So the cocoa bean, but if you take the cocoa bean and you take the meat out of that, cacao, but cocoa bean is the common name versus the Latin name. Okay, any other questions?
Would you
No?
ever put a little salt, like a pinch of salt?
You know what? I was absolutely thinking when I was tasting it the first time, I was thinking it needs just a little pinch of salt. Absolutely. It needs a pinch of salt. Yeah, just because salt gives complexity of flavor and it increases the flavor of everything. So,
What type of salt would you
100%. It would be just a small amount. So really, whatever salt you have around, it would be Himalayan pink salt. That's my kind of go-to salt. But really, the volume of salt is so low that I think it doesn't matter all that much. All right. Well, there you go. There's your recipe for the week. Thanks for showing up, folks online. Thanks for showing up, folks in person. You can have another. We'll blend up another one. I'll get the other blender and we'll do a proper blend without this. I cannot believe that we blew out the side of this thing right there with that pressure. But that's why. That is exactly why I was saying you have to be careful about this. You have to be so careful. This you can increase the pressure, but I did it anyway, knowing that this isn't what I want to do. And yeah, it cracked it from the increased pressure. So there you go. Do as I say, not as I do. Pinch of salt. Yeah, right. Yeah, Abahita totally needed the pinch of salt. Good to see you all. I'll see you next week. Mwah. Love you. Thanks for showing up. Bye-bye.